In this driving lesson video, we're going to take a look at a driving test report sheet from one of my subscribers. He unfortunately didn't pass his driving test, and he emailed me in a report sheet so I could have a look at and go through some of the faults and find out what potentially went wrong in the test. If you want to learn more about driving, whether it's learning from the start or preparing for a test, then why not subscribe to this channel and hit that bell notification so you can be notified whenever I upload a new video. So back to this one here anyway. Let's have a look at the driving test report sheet now. So firstly, we can see here that there's quite a few marks, and either this person was completely not ready for the test, or they may have had a bad experience where one thing led to another and it just didn't work out on the day. So there's 31 grade 2 marks. Grade 2 are the kind of medium marks. Grade 1 is only minor marks. And grade 3 is serious, where even one grade 3 is an automatic fail. So the first thing I want to do is to take a look at the grade 3 marks first of all. The first one there we see is reaction to hazards. Now that could be a number of things. It could be braking suddenly when you came across an obstruction or a series of parked cars or a cyclist coming out or something like that. It could be because the learner driver saw the hazard very late, because he or she might have had too much tunnel vision. And that's something I always try and guard against with people I'm teaching how to drive, is to avoid tunnel vision where you're looking straight ahead or focusing on the one thing up ahead too much. You need to use your peripheral vision when driving, so be aware of what's slightly to the left and more to the left, and be aware of what's slightly to the right, as in 2 o'clock, but also 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock, as well as what's straight in front of you. Avoiding tunnel vision can help prepare and deal with hazards better. So as with all these faults, I don't know what exactly happened, but I'm only kind of surmising and guessing here that it might have been due to braking very late, not seeing the problem until very late, perhaps swinging too wide. Maybe there was some parked cars and somebody opened the door on the left and the learner just kind of swung wide, kind of in a swerve and in an unexpected and exaggerated way, and that's not going to look good, let's face it. It could have been that the learner was too close to the car as well, and maybe someone attempted to open the door, or maybe a cyclist came too close to the driver. Who knows? But the main thing is it's a reaction to hazards anyway. So the driver didn't react to the hazard at hand, and the foundation to reacting to hazards is anticipating. So if you plan ahead and look ahead, you can plan better for any eventualities up ahead. So that was hazards. I've videos on all these in more detail, so I'm going to leave links in the description so that you can kind of check out in more detail my specific video on reacting to hazards. Links in the description. The next grade 3 mark then is reverse observation. So clearly, according to the tester anyway, the learner driver here was not looking behind them enough. In my experience, so many learner drivers spend so much time looking in the side mirror that they forget to look, and they miss loads of stuff going on behind them. You'll only see a limited amount of stuff in the side mirror. By looking behind as well as your mirrors, you'll have a far broader range of view and you'll be able to see more things. So it's possible that the driver here was looking in the side mirror so much that they didn't see, or was late seeing a cyclist or a child or a car coming behind them. It could have been something like that. I always advise as well that, especially if it's a fine day, to leave the window open a little bit, and you can hear things then in the distance as well when you're reversing around the corner. It's crucial to get right shoulder checks as well, and not just focus on the left shoulder when you're reversing around the corner. Let's have a closer look at that there now, the reverse around the corner here. So let's have a look at observation here on the reverse around the corner. The car is starting the reverse here. It's going to come around the corner here and finish about here. So the first thing under observation is, before the car moves off, is to give a full look all around, a general look all around, to check out the area for any children, cyclists that might be there,
Don't just put it into reverse gear and go. Make sure you look around first. Then as you're going back, you can certainly keep a brief glances in the left side mirror on this side, but don't constantly look there. You have to be looking behind more so you see more about what's coming from this road and from this road. And you'll see more by checking behind you. It's very important that just about here, before you turn the wheel, so this is kind of getting close to the point where you would make your initial turn, that you would give a good enthusiastic look over the right shoulder here. And you would do the same just here, another right shoulder check there, and the same here as well, along here. It's important that you get that right shoulder check, because as the car turns around, quite a big blind spot is going to open up around here. So getting at least 3 right shoulder checks here, here and here is going to give you better overall observation for any cars coming or any people crossing the road or anything like that. As you're coming back here anyway, you're getting close to the time to straighten up. So a lot of people do focus on the side mirror here because they're worried about coming in at this kind of 45-degree angle hitting the curb. Yes, do keep an eye on the side mirror, but you have to try not to look at it all the time, because you still have to be aware of what's coming from up here. So be aware of the side mirror as you're coming, but don't forget to look behind you as well, over your left shoulder. And of course you can still give the odd right shoulder check here as well, but you'll probably see more by looking over the left shoulder in between the two headrests, because you can see the benefit of looking at this back passenger window and this side passenger window. So keep an eye on the mirrors and the blind spots as you're going back here, and just keep going then until the tester tells you to stop. I always say people to think about the 5-point check when you're reversing around a corner. You've got 3 mirrors and 2 shoulders, and once you have good balance between checking those, you should be fine. So that's really it there. Look behind more, don't look in the side mirror, don't forget the right shoulder checks here, and everything should be fine. As always, practice makes perfect.
So the next issue then is position. Position on the straight. I see there's 3 grade 2 marks there, and there's 3 grade 2 marks on position turning right. So I have a detailed video on position turning right. I leave a link in the description, and you may see a card on the top right of the screen there now as well. That video on position turning right goes into detail, including yellow boxes and side roads and T-junctions and stuff. So it's important, just in summary, you must keep right turning right. You must gradually come over to the right side of the road or the right side of the lane, depending if it's a wider road or how narrow the road is. On the straight, in general, you must keep left of centre on the road. Sometimes you might have to keep central. It all depends on how wide the lane is, because no 2 roads are going to be the exact same. So it's not like one size fits all. You have to adapt to the different types of roads, how narrow and how wide they are. There's also a position there, 1 grade 2 mark each, that is, at roundabouts and turning left. So at roundabouts, it may have been that he may have been slightly in the wrong lane. He may have straddled the white line at roundabouts, maybe not central enough if it's a 1-lane roundabout. And turning left, probably the driver didn't keep enough to the left. So let's have a look at position here now with the help of the magboard here.
We saw there was 3 marks, 3 grade 2 marks on position on the straight. So if you look at the blue car here, if the blue car is driving on the straight, this would be the wrong position. He's just too close to the middle white line. The driver in this case is simply allowing the car to drift too much to the right. Now that's absolutely fine if the blue car is hoping to take a right turn up here. That's different though. If you're on the straight, let's bring it back over a bit, the driver of the blue car should be nicely left of centre like that on the straight, and that's a far better position to have. Of course it depends on the width of the lane. I mean, if the lane was really, really narrow, he'd just have to be more central then. And if the driver of the blue car is worried that the car maybe here is sticking out a bit, well that's okay then, he can come out a little bit like that there, if he's worried about a car sticking out there. But that's only as a reaction to a very reasonable hazard, for want of a better phrase. Apart from that though, once the obstruction is over, he should come back in then and just aim to be left of centre. So in general, if you're on the straight, you should keep left of centre if it's safe and if it's practical to do so. We also had some on turning right and turning left. So I touched on turning right there a minute ago. If the blue car is wanting to turn right from a major road to a minor road, he should, down here, gradually, as he's coming up, gradually come over to the middle white line like that, towards the white line. And then if he's stopping, he should stop in line with this line here. So that line there should be a straight line across. Bring it down a little bit there. And then that's a good position to be in. So he should gradually come over to the centre white line for a right turn. If he's stopping then, don't stop back here, that's too short. Don't stop up there, that's too far, you might end up going like that then. Just back there where I had it in line with the line. And that'll be a good position for turning right. Now if he was turning right coming out of a minor road, that'll be just slightly different. So he'd be having to give way, you see, to the main road if he's coming from the minor road. So again, he'd come right of centre, kind of early and gradually like that. And if he's stopping then, he should be stopping very much to the right like that, not crossing the horizontal line here and not crossing the vertical line here, at least not initially. He may have to kind of creep out, to maybe if he wants to kind of see better. But if he's turning right, that'll be the situation there. Keep right turning right. Creep out if needed, but if it's not necessary, just stop at the line. And that'll be that. So position turning left then, there was one grade 2 mark on that. So let's say the blue car here is coming from coming from a main road into a minor road. It's important that he wouldn't, get too close here and risk coming up on the curb or clipping the curb or something, or even going too far like that and doing what's known as a swan neck, because that's not good. You're going to be cutting the corner here then, by doing that. And then if you're coming out then from a minor road out onto a main road here, the driver of the blue car should do his best just to keep left like that. And by keeping left like that, it goes with the curve here. I don't know if you can see that curve there. It goes with the curve, and by keeping left like that, it's probably going to help you keep more left on the next road. Because if you're over like this, nice and central like that, that's not ideal. Because then when you go left, you're going to have to work very hard, or a lot harder, to steer in, to keep in then, and you may end up swinging wide. So in general, if you're turning left, try and keep left. Let's look at roundabouts now. So roundabouts, if you're going left, you'd normally stay in the left lane like this. If you're going straight, you'd normally stay in the left lane as well. And if you're going anywhere to the right of 12 o'clock, so here or here, you would then be in the right lane on the approach. Now, as with all the faults, I don't know exactly what happened. There was only the one mark, I think, there on position at roundabouts. So it could have been the case that the driver was in the wrong lane, or it could have been that maybe he was straddling the white line in the middle. So when he should have been in the left lane, he was just maybe, like that, just sort of in the left lane, but half and half. I mean, that's not a great position there to be in. It could have been the case that maybe he stopped a bit too short, like that, and then didn't go up enough, or possibly he stopped a little bit too far forward, like that. It could have been that if he was going straight, instead of going around in a kind of a curve like that he just went like literally like straight through it, and didn't have good lane discipline. It could have been the case that he was going around to the right, and maybe he swung too wide here like that, and then did a little bit of a weaving maneuver. So it could have been anything like that. As I said, it's hard to say. I wasn't there. I don't know the individual, but that's just some of the areas where people can lose marks on position at roundabouts.
Next we have some marks on observation. Now, observation generally means to do with moving the head. It's not usually to do with mirrors. That's marked under a separate category, which we'll get to in a few minutes. But observation is about looking left and right, or checking the blind spot and moving off, which is what the first one I see here is: observation moving off 2 blue marks, 2 grade 2s. So that's more than likely to do with the learner driver not checking his or her blind spot before moving off from a parked position. When you're checking your blind spot, it's very important that you give a good, enthusiastic shoulder check over your right shoulder if you're moving off from the left. Now, that does not mean doing this. That's not a blind spot check, that's just merely a sideways glance. If you're moving off from the side of the road, a proper blind spot involves turning right around so that this shoulder here comes over here like that, and you can see clearly out the back passenger window. You have to do that so you've got a better view, because you're not going to see everything in your mirrors as I'm about to show you right now.
So this picture perfectly illustrates how important it is to check the blind spot moving off, because this candidate had 2 marks on their observation moving off. The driver of the red car, if he checks his left mirror, he'll see perfectly fine down here. If he checks his middle mirror, he'll see perfectly fine directly behind him. And the right side mirror, he'll see all this here. But he won't see this car here pulling out, or this car here about to pull out if he is, unless the driver checks his blind spot, and that is giving a good enthusiastic look over the right shoulder, as I demonstrated there a few seconds ago. That's the only way to make sure that you've got good all-round observation before you pull away. Because there's an area of road kind of in your, I suppose, between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock, if this is 3 o'clock and this is 5 o'clock, a huge area here of a blind spot that you cannot see by looking in the mirrors alone. Even with the best mirrors, you're not going to see everything. That's why it's so important to give a good right shoulder check, so you can see if there's a car coming here, if there's a cyclist crossing the road, a pedestrian crossing the road, or whatever else could be there. So you must check the blind spot anytime you pull off from a parked position.
Also on observation, we have one each there on overtaking and crossing junctions. So overtaking, that could be the mirrors, or it may be the case that if you were overtaking, a quick sideway glance might be beneficial, just like this. Now it's only a quick sideway glance. You don't want to be giving a big massive blind spot when you're overtaking or changing lanes. But sometimes extra mirror checks when you're overtaking can be good, just to make sure that there's nobody coming up behind you, no car speeding up behind you, nobody overtaking you as you're about to overtake the car or cyclist in front of you. So always get extra mirror checks when overtaking, and possibly a quick sideway glance only if it's safe and only if it's practical. Crossing junctions then as well, I see here. That's usually to do with moving the head. So keeping the head moving left and right, looking up and down the road, and possibly creeping out is good as well, because when you creep out more, you're going to give yourself a better view. So I have a detailed video on observation at junctions and roundabouts. You'll see a link in the description, and you will hopefully see a card on the top right of the screen as well there now. So next then we have mirrors and signals. We have some marks here on mirrors. So mirrors on the straight I see here, and mirrors stopping. It's important to keep an eye on the mirrors every 8 to 10 to 12 seconds as you're driving along the straight, because it helps you keep in tune with what could be behind you and what could be about to overtake you or get close to you at some stage in the future. For example, if you see a cyclist behind you, that doesn't mean that he's always going to be behind you and that you're going to speed away from him, because if there's roadworks or a red light up ahead, it's good that you were aware of that cyclist initially when you checked your mirrors a minute or two ago. So keeping an eye on the mirrors every 10 or 12 seconds is good, just to keep your bearings and to keep in tune with what's going on behind you. Stopping as well. Whenever you're stopping, for example, if you're stopping for a pedestrian crossing, if you're stopping to park the car on the left, or if you're stopping at lights or a roundabout, it's good just to give at least a quick glance at the mirrors as you're stopping, so you can keep an eye on any cyclists that could be coming up on your left or right, and just for overall awareness as well. In one of my videos on mirrors, I have something called 4 S's, that you should check your mirrors in the following times, 4 times beginning with S: slowing down, stopping, going straight, and starting off in a queue. I'll leave a link in the description where you can check out that detailed video on using your mirrors. So next then we have signals. Signals overtaking and signals at roundabouts. One each, one for overtaking and one at roundabouts. So overtaking, the candidate must have forgot to indicate when he or she was overtaking a car or a hazard or whatever like that, or he may have indicated but it might have slipped off. It's important to keep the indicator on until you're level with the first parked car. So like, for example, if there was a line of parked cars, there was 3 parked cars, you should keep the signal on until you're level with the first parked car anyway. And that's just a way of letting people both in front of you and behind you know what your plans and intentions are. So try and keep the signals on properly when overtaking, but not too long, because if they're on too long, People might think that you're parking on the left further ahead, or parking on the right further ahead, or taking a right turn further ahead, depending on what way you signalled. And that roundabout, it's only one grade 2, so it may be the case that he forgot to signal leaving a roundabout, forgot to signal coming onto it, or maybe it just slipped off early. As long as you try your best to concentrate and focus on the signals, they should be fine. Our next collection of faults then is to do with progress. Now this is going to be pretty simple, because progress is about not driving fast enough or being too slow and too hesitant. So there's quite a number of faults on progress. I mean, the driver would have failed on progress alone, because if you get 9 marks or over, that's 9 grade 2 marks or above, you're going to fail anyway. So there's an awful lot of progress marks here. I don't think this driver was anywhere near ready for a driving test. I'm not sure who was advising him to do a driving test, but with this amount of marks on progress and this amount of marks in general, it strikes me that the driver was just simply completely ill-informed and completely not ready for a test. But then again, that happens every day of the week. So let's start with the first one, moving off. Progress moving off, just too slow moving off, not going when there was an appropriate gap, not maybe getting the bite. The bite is when you bring the clutch up to feel a pull on the car, connection. On the straight, there's 2 on the straight. So if you have a good open straight road like this, a nice open road there, it's perfectly okay to give it some juice, get up to 4th gear and get to 50 kilometers. Like, unless there's some reason not to, unless there's someone walks out in front of you, or a car slows down up ahead, or some kind of obstruction. But provided the road is nice and clear and nice and straight and nice and open, just put the foot down and get up to the speed limit. Don't hang around. Get on with it. Get driving. At roundabouts, so it's understandable. Maybe the roundabout was a bit busy, but according to the tester's saying here that there was opportunity to go, opportunity to progress at the roundabouts, and the candidate didn't take the opportunity to go when the tester felt it was there. Turning right and turning left is similar to roundabouts. According to the tester, the candidate was too slow, too indecisive, didn't take advantage of the gap when it was there. And the last one then, at lights. I always advise people when they're at traffic lights to wait in 1st gear. I never understand why some people persist in waiting in neutral gear. That's completely the wrong thing to do. Wait in 1st gear, especially if you're in the top 2 or 3 at the queue of lights or whatever, because at least when you're waiting in 1st gear, you're ready to go. And while you're waiting, don't have your right foot hanging over the brake or pressing the brake. While you're waiting, have your right foot over the accelerator, so your feet are in a ready to go position. There's no point in waiting on the foot brake if you already have your handbrake up, for example. Have your feet ready, be in 1st gear, and you're more likely to pull off a bit quicker then. It's okay to have your bite ready sometimes, as long as the car is not under too much pressure. If you feel that the light is about to go green very soon, you can have your bite ready, and then all you have to do is let the handbrake down, and away you go then. But yeah, that's the story there with progress. It's just the driver was too slow, too indecisive. It needs more practice. It needs more confidence moving off, and that will help to eliminate some of these mistakes then. Next then we have some vehicle controls. The 2 I see here is clutch and foot brake. So it appears that there's 1 each, 1 grade 2 on clutch and 1 on foot brake. So clutch, first of all, it could be coasting. Coasting is when you put the clutch in fully and the car kind of freewheels down without any ability to engine brake, and the noise of the engine, the revs go all silent. So coasting is dangerous, especially downhill, because it makes the car speed up and you don't have full control of the car. So it's important not to coast, unless you're stopping or changing gears when you have to coast. There are exceptions, of course, but you shouldn't be driving with the clutch in for a prolonged period of time unless you are about to stop or in the process of changing gears. But it might not be coasting. It could be that the candidate was a bit hasty with the clutch, so perhaps he or she didn't put the clutch in enough time to stop, causing the car to chug or struggle or even stall. It could be that maybe they lifted the clutch a bit too quick, and that caused the car to be jerky and jumpy. Maybe they didn't bring the clutch up enough to find a bite, and that caused the car maybe to roll back a little bit. There's a number of things. It's hard to give an exact definition of what happened because I wasn't there and I wasn't speaking to the tester on the day. But that's just some of the reasons anyway. The next one is foot brake. I have a video on how to use the brake properly. Again, link in the description. It's important to brake early and gradually and gently. Pretend like you're pressing on an eggshell, because you don't want to be coming late and sudden onto the brake, because that's not going to look good. It's not going to be comfortable for you, the driver, or the tester. You should always brake with your heel on the ground. Having your heel on the ground helps to anchor your foot properly and takes the weight of the entire leg off the pedal. So try your best to plan ahead, anticipate, and brake early and gradually, not late and suddenly. So to summarise then, it appears to me that this driver was nowhere near ready for a driving test. Nowhere near the standard required. This driver has serious issues with position and progress and observation in mirrors as well. It's not really one thing alone, like it's across the board, like there was marks and faults here in general in almost every part of driving. So this driver, I think, needs to forget about driving tests, needs to start putting a plan in place to get professional driving lessons and get lots of practice, and forget about a driving test until you've reached the required standard, because to be quite honest, you're only going to be wasting your time and wasting your money doing driving tests when you're not ready. So practice is best, and plenty of driving lessons. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comment section some of your faults that you might have had in the driving test and how you overcame them faults. If you want to send me a report sheet, you can do so at the following email address, danetai@gmail.com. I can't guarantee I'll get round to it, but I'll do my best to do it in the near future anyway. Don't forget to subscribe for more great driving videos just like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.